most people are there to pin weddings and hairstyles instead of coding resources. And so this community is an audience that's already looking for coding resources. So it's easier to find people who are looking for what you're creating.
And how would that, like having that community there and it being easier, how would that be beneficial to you?
So I think as somebody who creates a lot of content and blog posts, part of it is getting your own resources out in front of different people and have that as an option. Another thing though is just in order to help people out on the internet, like a lot of this stuff is just in order to help people really, rather than for some bigger purpose. But also, like, I tend to have lists of additional resources at the end of my blog posts, and so this would be a good way of organizing that.
And when you think about the list that you have, if you were using this, how do you imagine that being different, the way you currently said you have a list of your posts?
Yeah, so I normally post my posts in 3 different places. And so if I need to go back and update an article, if I find another good resource, then I have to do that on 3 different websites. And so if I had a way, I could just link to something like this, and this would update, and I wouldn't have to update those links in my other posts. That could be really helpful too. That'd be really helpful.
Okay, and how do you might not have any ideas on this, but do you see how that would manifest itself, or do you have like a visual for that, what that would look like?
Of my blog posts, or yeah, so
listening to this.
Yeah, I normally have like a unordered list at the bottom of additional resources if people want to learn more, or if they want to go more in depth on some sort of subtopic. And so I could just link to one of these boards that has all the additional resources for that article instead of having that list that I have right now.
Okay. What do you think is the most valuable thing that you've seen, that we've shown you?
I think the aggregation feature of it. I also think the idea of an extension is really cool because that makes it really easy to save things. You don't have to just keep tabs open and bookmark them and stuff like that. You can just use the extension, so it's an easy way to organize stuff.
Can you clarify what you mean by the aggregation feature?
Just that it's a bunch of similar resources in one place. And we don't things. Yeah.
Do you currently use bookmarks?
Do I normally use bookmarks?
You said that you don't have to keep tabs open or have bookmarks. So is that how you currently do things?
Yeah, for the most part. That's how I organize my like personal bookmarks for the most part, is I just have different folders. I think that I would still have to keep that to some extent because I do like to keep some stuff somewhat private until I want to put it in a blog post or something like that. But I do have like an outrageous number of things bookmarked on my computer, and so it'd be nice to move that onto a platform that other people could maybe benefit from.
You said you have an outrageous number of things. So if I were to say, okay, from 1 to 10, like 1 being not a problem at all and 10 being like incredibly painful, how painful it is, like working with that, with your bookmark situation, how would you rank it?
I've come up with a pretty decent. I've come up with a decent solution to it for me personally. It isn't super annoying, but that being said, there's probably a better way for me to still come back to these links in the future.
What is your solution?
So I have folders for different types of resources, and then I also have 2 kind of bucket bookmarks. Bookmark folders. One's that is read later, so for things that I haven't read yet but want to, I'll put that in that folder. And then anything that I haven't shared in social media yet or in a blog post, I'll put in my to share folder. Once I've shared it and read it, then I post it into another folder that fits it more perfectly, like a CSS folder or a JavaScript folder or animation folder or something like that.
Do you ever have a time where one resource might go in more than one folder?
Yeah, but it's just the best fit kind of
Okay.
situation, yeah.
Do the best fit, and you're like, oh,
but this would totally help with that as well.
And how would it help?
That you could put resources on multiple of these like boards or groups.
What do you think? In fact, actually, going back to the fact that you can put resources on multiple boards, I'm guessing that you take some of the resources that you save, you put them in different blog posts. How do you keep track of what do you want to put in blog post or whatever collection of resources that you share?
So normally I only put the ones that I absolutely love. So normally like 3 per blog post, and so I'll normally have those on the top of my memory. Like, this was really, really awesome. I should definitely add this in.
Okay. So there's no situation where you kind of need to track things over time, or?
Not really, just because I really only put those like 3 favorite resources or something like that.
What do you think is missing from what we've shown you today in terms of like functionality?
I think the only thing that I was saying was that the ability to have some sort of comment or maybe like an upvote system or something like that, although that gets competitive and is kind of weird, but maybe having some sort of system where people can say that this board is really awesome and has a lot of resources in it, so it's easier to find. Although it looks like you're more doing a social media type strategy with the tweet button instead of having it be on the site.
So you're saying if people could comment on this, for example, this rel of newbies, people in the community could add comments to this to say, oh, I've used this, or I didn't use this, or I found this out.
Something like that could be cool. Or if there's a homepage of all these different boards, then having some ability to upvote one so that people know which of these boards are really awesome, or the collections.
So we have this all collections page, which I don't think I showed you already. And this is basically all of the collections on the site on one page.
Cool. Yeah. So some way to maybe upvote the most helpful ones or something like that.
And so how do you imagine that being useful?
Just so that people know which boards are actually valuable. Just as I think any social media site, there's kind of the filter for what content is actually useful or not. And something that I've noticed with some sites is that they can get kind of clogged up with resources that aren't super great or aren't super relevant, and it may just be people like pushing their own stuff that's not super incredible, or some spammer just posting links that aren't even about code or something like that. And so some sort of filtering system so that the best resources rise and people see those first.
What other sites were you thinking of just then?
So something like Dev2, or even, I don't like Reddit, but something like Reddit where the most valuable content is getting upvoted in theory.
And you said you don't like Reddit. Why is that?
There's a lot there. They, I think, are just not super helpful to people and can be really, really nasty. I had a not great experience with some of my stuff getting posted to Reddit earlier this year. By not me. Somebody else posted my stuff and had a nasty experience with that.
Okay. So it's basically the community wasn't welcoming.
Yeah, for sure.
And what's your experience of do you use the Dev2 much?
Yes, I love Dev2.
And why do you love it?
An awesome community. People are very respectful. Their whole mission is that they're like an online tech conference. So instead of people making really mean comments or something like that, or comments that are unhelpful, they're usually really constructive, and there is a place for discussion, and for people to disagree with each other, but there isn't much like insulting people or anything like that. And also, I think it's a great place to find good content as well.
And when you say great content, what characterizes great content for you?
I would say resources that are helpful, that have a good perspective, that are people put a lot of effort into.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would stop you from using the stuff we've shown you today?
I think like anything, just time, but I think that this is definitely something that I would use.
Okay. When you say time, can you clarify, as in, is it at the moment you don't have much time, or if something took a long time? What aspects of time?
I don't think this would take a huge amount of time, and I would have to use it in order to see, but obviously with anything, there's a scoped amount of time, especially as somebody who works full time and has a pretty big side gig as well. So,
yeah. If you were to share what we did today, like the extension and the website, with a friend, what would you say it's for?
I would say it's for aggregating coding resources and creating lists of helpful content.
Sorry.
No, I think I'm good. That was super helpful.
Cool.
Okay, thank you so much for your time, Ali. That was incredibly helpful. It was really great to talk with you. Is there anything that maybe we didn't ask you or has come to mind, or any questions that you have for us?
I don't think so, no. This was really cool.
Okay, we'll let you go for lunch. But before that, if we want to reach out to you again, perhaps show you a different version and ask you some more questions, would you be willing to speak with us?
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. And actually, one other question I have, and you can answer this later, but do you know any other people who are like, I consider you like a sharer, someone who's like always like producing stuff for the community, that kind of thing, that you think might be interested in or might find this helpful, that we might be able to reach out to?
That's a good question. Do you know Venny?
Yeah, we're actually talking to her on Sunday. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. She was my first thought. She's like real life friend. She's awesome. Maybe the Dev2 folks. I know that you've like worked with them a little bit in the past, but
you don't answer now.
Just think about it, and if anyone comes to mind, just DM us. Yeah, we'll talk to more people. Cool.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ali. You take care.
Bye.
Bye.